All right, welcome everybody. Appreciate those of you who are here in the room and those of you who are online. If and we've got time for public to speak as well, so thank you for spending your time with us this afternoon. I'm going to go around the room. Let's do introductions, and we'll start there. We'll start with Rosie.
Rosie Hernandez, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Susie Swim, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Carlton Christensen with the Utah Transit Authority. And when Andrew said we should become more involved in active transportation, I went and broke my leg last June so I could use my knee scooter. So thanks, Andrew.
That wasn't exactly the mode of transportation we were thinking of, Carlton, but thanks for contributing.
Jim Harvey, Weber County.
Andrea Pearson, WFRC.
And Andrew Gruber, WFRC Executive Director.
And of course, I'm Mark Shepard, Clearfield City Mayor.
Wayne Benyon, WFRC staff.
Blaine Fackrell, Morgan County Commissioner.
Rob Daly, City of Holiday.
Ben Hewitt with UDOT.
Craig Smith, Urda City.
Marsha White, WFRC.
Matt Ryan, WFRC.
Ben Withrich, WFRC.
And online, Andrea, who do we have?
Online with us today, the members and alternates joining are, let's see, Jordan Chandler, Susie Swim, Sherry Bingham, Nicole Bordeaux, Ken Ritchie, Mike Wickers, Ann Granado, Kendall and Harris, and Jim Miller.
Thank you very much. I feel kind of jaded this morning. I got ripped off. I sat in on the meeting this morning and there was an entire WFRC staff over on this side. And I got pretty much Marsha and Ben. I just.
That's because everybody knows that Ben's got everything under control.
That's right. Wow, their meeting must have been a whole lot more exciting than mine was going to be.
I don't know, let's wait and see. And I just want to note for all of our participants online, please feel free to participate. We see you, even if you have your camera off and your microphone muted, but we'll be watching. Just feel free to speak up or raise your hand or drop something in the chat if you'd like.
Thank you. We have minutes to approve from our June 20th meeting. Are there any changes to those minutes? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve them.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and Andrew can figure out who the second was. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Minutes.
Aye.
Well, you'll recall that decades ago, the Wasatch Front Regional Council was designated as the Metropolitan Planning Organization for Salt Lake and the Ogden-Layton urbanized areas with responsibility for regional transportation planning. There are a couple of national organizations that advocate for metropolitan planning organizations across the country, and one of these is the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations, or AMPO. And this year, they're holding their annual conference here in Salt Lake, which is terrific. The conference will be held September 24th through the 27th, the Salt Lake Marriott downtown at City Creek. And kind of awesome. You're invited to go. I guess we can do you want to register? Do you want to?
Yes, and we're sending out some information about the conference. We'd like to think that they're coming here principally because they're so impressed with the great collaborative work that we all do together. Absolutely. Thank you for the endorsement. We think it might also have something to do with how great a place it is to visit and to vacation in Utah. But we're going to be happy to share with the folks from around the country some information about what we do here in Utah, and then also learn from our peers around the country. We do a great job collectively. We get a lot of accolades from around the country, but we also know that it's important to be open to making improvements and to learn from others. So we're looking forward to it.
It is always cool to bring people to town and show off what we got here.
It is.
We'll do it with the Olympics, and next year we actually do it with the National League of Cities. They're holding their annual convention next November in Salt Lake.
Awesome. I didn't know that.
Andrew, is there a day in that conference that if we wanted to pretend we worked with you closely, that would be good to show up? Or
Carlton, yes, you actually have an email in your inbox, and take a look at it and let us know if you'd like to join for a day. And the nice thing is we don't even have to pretend.
Okay, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we'd love to support you in it. So.
Well, WFRC staff have prepared a cool map to highlight the transportation investments, past, present, future, that contributed to the success of the 2002 Olympics, and that will help us be prepared again to host the world in 2034. So I'm going to give Andrew just a few minutes to kind of walk us through that map.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And as I noted before, this meeting is largely the Ben Withrich show, but he's kind enough to give me just a moment here. Since the last time that Transcom met, the Olympics was officially awarded to Utah. And we know that we're all really excited about this. And we think ahead, particularly about transportation and what it means, what the Olympics means to Utah and our transportation system. And so I just want to highlight to all of you, if you're wondering where are we with preparation for the Olympics and what else is going to happen. Our team put together a map, and I want to show you how to get there. So you can see on your screen, this is our homepage. And if you go to the Wasatch Choice Vision Map, which I'm sure you all do often because there's so much great information there about transportation and land use, you open that map up, and on the homepage for the map, what you see is this is the base map, which matches what's on the wall as well, our vision, looking ahead decades into the future for the type of community that we want to have: transportation, land use, parks and public spaces, housing options around the region. But we also created this tab, the SLC 2034 tab. And now this is available for all of you to check out. So if you look at this, what it shows, there's the locations of the Olympic venues all over the region. And you see, of course, the venues that are in Salt Lake, those over in Park City, and then up further north at Snow Basin, and then down into Provo for the hockey arena down there. So lots of great, I mean, the proximity of venues to our central core is narrower than really any other Olympics that's happened as far as I'm aware. And so one of the reasons that our area, our region was selected for the Olympics is because we have the infrastructure in place largely to serve the Olympics when they're coming. And now some of that is based on what we did in 2002. But the question is, what's happened since 2002 and what's going to happen between now and 2034? So what I'm going to do, and you can do this, of course, as well on this map, I'm actually going to turn off all those transportation layers. You'll see here, again, the venues are showing up, a few major developments that we're anticipating in our region, which are really important as well, major regional developments, the Point, downtown Daybreak, the Fair Park and the Power District, the Sports and Entertainment District that we think about also for access. And then, think back with me to what major transportation improvements were made in the lead up to the 2002 Olympics. It gets talked, I wasn't here. Well, I came for the Olympics. I actually came for the Paralympics because my brother-in-law is a Paralympic skier, highly decorated Paralympic skier. So I was here for that. But I wasn't working here, is my point. But I know that there was a huge amount of effort leading up to the 2002 Olympics to do the reconstruction of I-15 in Salt Lake County and the construction of the first tracks lines going up to the University of Utah and through the heart of the Salt Lake Valley. Well, compare that to what's happened since 2002 up until now, essentially, and just look at the significant investments that have been made in transportation. The construction of the front runner, the construction of the other tracks lines, major roadway projects, Bangerter, Mountain View Corridor, then projects going up into and through Davis County and Weber County. I mean, we've all lived through this, but just the scale of continued effort means that we are in a place that's much, much better for moving people, moving cars, whatever the mode of transportation they want, than we were even in 2002. And the games in 2002, from those of you who were here, was very successful from a transportation perspective. Now, what's going to happen between now and 2034? What do we anticipate? And so let me turn those old layers off, or the stuff that's in place then and now. If you look at this map, it reveals that there is still so much that is planned for. Most of this, but not all of this, is funded already to be completed by 2034. Continued enhancements to Mountain View Corridor and improvements in Utah County to the roadway. You see this purple line is the front runner system, the work that is ongoing to complete the engineering and the funding for the strategic double tracking of front runner to enhance the reliability and ease of using front runner. There's the bus rapid transit systems in the Central Valley and over in Park City moving north. There's the rebuild of the I-15 into Davis County. Going further north, you see the interchanges off of I-84, including at Mountain Green. These are all improvements that are not being done for the Olympics itself, okay? But the idea is to do these things because it is the right thing for our community. That's why they are being planned and programmed now. But they will also enhance our ability to serve the world when it comes here in 2034. So this map and all the information is available to all of you. And we just wanted, Mr. Chair, to do a quick overview as we look ahead. We'll all be working on all of this as we go forward. I'll just note one more thing. Next week, 1 week from today, actually 1 week from literally this moment, we will be in our full WFRC council meeting, and we're starting that meeting with a broader discussion about the Olympics and what it means to Utah. And we'll have some of the members of the U.S. Olympic Committee that'll be joining us. So if you want to dig in more to Olympics, come on back next week. Happy to address any quick questions, but that was the little overview we wanted to provide, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Can you explain why, with Utah now becoming a hockey state,
Yeah.
and having the a hockey arena downtown and a hockey training facility in Sandy, that they're doing hockey in Provo? Just questioning.
I'm going to take that as a rhetorical question, not for me to answer.
Oh, I'd love for you to answer it, but we're not going to go there. Well, that brings us to our, I can say that because they're not part of us, so. This is true. It could take place at the ice sheet in Ogden, so. All right, well, that brings us to our public comment period. I don't have any notice of anyone here from the public to speak. Is there anyone online, Andrea?
I don't think we're seeing it.
Okay, well then we'll move past the public comment and move into our transportation improvement program. And today we have two items regarding the transportation improvement program, or the TIP. First, requests to modify the existing 24 to 2029 TIP, which Ben Withridge will review with us. And the second is the draft 2025-2030 transportation improvement program. And you'll recall that the TIP includes billions of dollars in transportation improvement investments proposed for the Wasatch Front region over the next 6 years. When we get to that item, we'll give Ben some time to remind us a bit about how the TIP is developed and review with us the public information efforts and the summary of public comments, and we'll take it to there. So Ben, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you made comment earlier about having participated in the RGC meeting. They knew I wasn't talking in that meeting, and so they came, but now they know I'm here and they're gone.
No, we
So
know that
it's-
that's not the case, because the entertainment doesn't start until Ben takes the podium.
Well, thanks. One thing though, to note though, is the RGC committee, that's the regional transportation plan. That's the long-term planning that's out there for 20 to 30 years. And the short range, or the transportation improvement program that we get to talk about today, is the short term or the near term, the 4 to 6 year programming of projects where the funds are available, the projects are moving forward. So this is a pretty dynamic document that we get to work with, and it's the primary responsibility of Transcom. And I appreciate your participation, appreciate your toleration and your patience So as the chair mentioned, we do have the two items that are important for our document today. And the first one here is an action on the board modification. And so in your meeting materials, there's actually quite a few tables. There's 4 tables, and each one of those is full of projects. And we're going to try to go through those as quickly as we can. But if you need clarification or have a question, please ask. So our very first project that we'll get to look at here is in Sandy City. This is in Salt Lake County. It's on SR 209 or 90th South. And it takes place here at the Quarry Bend, where it takes a bend right here, 90th South, over towards 9400. The intent is to build a pedestrian bicycle overpass or bridge over 90th South. This is a great constructed facility. You can see it there in the dark gray. What it'll do is not only construct the bridge, which is the black line, but then the sidewalks, which will enable a connection to their Sandy City Canal trail, as well as sidewalk. It'll provide access from the residents on the west of that to be able to proceed across to where the recreational as well as the shopping facilities are there on the east. You can see the grade elevation between the west and the east side there. So the structure, fairly simple to implement, but the intent of this board modification is to add additional funds. There was some active transportation investment funds that were programmed by the department on this project. This amount was for $5.98+ million, giving us a total project cost of $9.9 million. For this project. The next project we have an opportunity to look at is just south of the Capitol, here on Capitol Hill at 300 North and State Street. This is to address an intersection there. It's to realign an existing at-grade intersection into a roundabout here at 300 North and State Street. Perhaps this is the view you're more familiar with. The construction of a roundabout in this area will reduce the congestion and will help increase safety and mobility throughout the area. There was some funding that was put into the design, $300,000. An additional $2.2+ million is being requested to add to this project so that it can go to construction. The next project we have before us is also in Salt Lake
Ben?
City. Yes.
On the last one, does that mean we lose the possibility of death during the legislative session if they build this? Because that's the most dangerous intersection in the world to get through. And you have to have a lot of courage. You mean it's going to solve that issue?
I would defer back to UDOT. They're on their,
I think it's a good thing. by the
it'll
way.
minimize the speeds and the intersection organization, I think, use. Ben, anything you'd add?
Coming up out of the avenues onto Beck Street as maybe as bad as that one.
I know that they've done a lot of
It
coordination.
just,
in
it
that.
just shows you should not try to go to the Capitol during the legislative session.
I know that they've done a lot of coordination in that area, and I think one of the things they're also looking at with this project is they've had issues with people trying to get photographs and stepping out in the roadway to get the right photograph. And I think that part of this creates a little bit of extra room there to allow for those activities to happen off the roadway. So I think that's also a part of it.
Thank you, Ben. No, great question. Our next project is a project in Cottonwood Heights. This is a request from Cottonwood Heights. This is the Bengal Boulevard and Highland Drive area. It's an intersection improvement in this particular location. You'll recall, hopefully a few years ago, we had this project brought before this body for review and approval. This was to address the intersection here at Highland Drive and Bengal Boulevard. Both the turning movements to the north and to the south. We also, a couple of years ago, the funds that were recommended by this body was 1.5+ million. There was also a project just a little, well, on the north side and a little further to the east is on Bengal Boulevard, and that was to construct a 10-foot bike ped path on the north side of this facility. So the intent was to tie these two projects together. It was recommended by this body and approved by the council there, $444,000. Well, we also improved an intersection just a little further to the east, and this is just a kind of looking east towards that roundabout. This is the city hall is there on the left-hand side, and you got the high school on the right-hand side of this. Beautiful facility, functions well. And if you turn around and look to the west, you've got plenty of access on both sides for vehicles as well as pedestrian and bicycle use. But as you proceed a little further to the west, we lose all that on the north side. And then as you come down to already a constricted intersection there, as it approaches Highland Drive, we have even more complications with the level of traffic volumes in the area and the pedestrians mix. So as we combine these projects together, the engineers, as they've gone through 30% design, have identified that this project now is a $3.1 million project. Our funding that we currently have budgeted for or programmed for is $2.1+ million. That gives us just under $1 million shortfall. The city's come back and requested an additional $891,000 plus, coming to the table with their match, as well as the commitment to provide all the other resources and additional funding if necessary to complete the project. So this board request is for an additional $891,000 of STP funds. The next project brings us the list of transportation investment funds first last mile project. This is a funding source that is for those projects, active transportation projects, to help address those issues for transit use, either from home, work, or other locations. As the Transportation Commission, UDOT has a prioritization process for these projects. And when a project is identified, it requires that the project sponsor come to the table with at least 40% match on the project funds. These projects were reviewed over this past 6 months and in March and May, and then were approved by the Transportation Commission. These projects here are projects that are in the WFRC area. That's pretty good. So that gives us a total amount of projects in the Wasatch Front area out of 14 projects, or excuse me, out of, 13 projects. 12 of those projects are in the Wasatch Front area. The total funds that were programmed with the match equated to more than $22 million for all 13 projects. The TTIF first last mile projects equated to $4.7 million. In the Wasatch Front area, the total amount of the projects was $21+ million on 12 projects, with the TTIF first last mile at $4.4 million. So the request is to add these projects into the Transportation Improvement Program. That brings us to table number 2. So the first projects in that table are projects from our federal government. These are grants for community project funding, or CPF projects. They were formerly known as earmark projects. These projects are appropriated and allocated from the general funds for transportation and infrastructure, and the grants are based on the recipients, and their allocations are determined by Congress through a congressionally directed application process. The recipients are also specifically identified in the Appropriations Act corresponding with the applicable fiscal year. Awesome, that's fantastic. So they're sending us money and telling us where to spend it. So we say, why do we need to talk about it? Well, we need to, as a body, approve these projects into the TIP. Some of these projects also have funds that are already in the TIP. And so if we were just to add those funds to the projects that are already in the TIP, there would be some discrepancies in the amounts that are coming to the state from those that they could see and those that they couldn't see. And so to enable us to be transparent and to be able to show all the projects that are located, these are the ones that are currently on the tip out of the projects that were in the Wasatch Front area. So the grants for community project funding, WFRC had 7 projects, and the CPF funds equated to more than $21 million. And those projects are all have or are yet seeking additional funds to equate to a total of $107 million worth of projects. So these projects are being brought to you to amend into the TIP document.
And let me
Yes.
just briefly add, when you're talking about the federal funds, community project funding, formerly known as earmarks, it's a relatively small amount of money. It gets an outsized attention, but it's a relatively small amount of money. Having said that, we certainly appreciate the members of our congressional delegation working with us and supporting us. And just for you being in this room and with WFRC, working with UDOT, working with UTA, one of the criteria that is looked at through the federal appropriations process and earmarking process is for projects that are regionally significant, transportation projects, are they in the officially adopted plans? And US DOT and Congress, they look for that, because if a project is part of the plan, that means it's been evaluated and been vetted and gone through this process. So it is, we like that. We like that approach because it gives a credibility to the projects coming out of Congress when, in years past, there have been the proverbial bridges to nowhere. Having projects emerge from the plans means that we know it's a good project and we're going to be able to put the money to good use.
Thank you, Andrew. The next projects we had to talk about are similar in the way we're treating these projects, but they actually come from House Bill 488 or transportation funding. So you may be aware, in fact, I know you are because of the great newsletter and work that Miranda does and Andrew, that the 488 had some modifications to the transportation funding, and that was modification to provide funding for specific projects from the County of the First Class Highway Project Fund, or the CFCHP. That's an acronym. So the CFCHP includes a portion of the second and third quarter local option sales tax revenues within Salt Lake County. Historically, this fund has been subject to legislative appropriation and administered by UDOT. So in the past, what we've done is these have been kind of like pass-through monies. They've come from the legislators to UDOT, and through UDOT, those are on a reimbursement to the project sponsors. Well, in a similar manner, and I might add, they're funded in the bill for the fiscal year 24-25 and 25-26. So in a real similar manner, those projects, a lot of those projects are also in a transportation improvement program. And to take those funds and to put them into the TIP or amend them into the TIP without addressing any of the others kind of leaves us a vacancy of transparency. So in discussion with UDOT and in a way that we can show consistency, we've elected to bring these projects before Transcom and amend them into the Transportation Improvement Program. Then those projects that have funding from multiple pots are identified, and those projects that are new are also identified, and those projects will still go through in the same process. The local government takes care and constructs the project with the reimbursement from the state with these funds. Does that make sense? So the program amount here in this past year was $43.7 million, and the estimated total project costs, and a lot of these are still seeking other funds or have other funding resources, but these total project costs are more than $167 million. So that brings us to our next project, and this is another project that this body reviewed and approved several years ago. This project was entitled the 13th South Bypass Bike Boulevard. This was to address the pedestrian movement in and around Ballpark, as well as improve the safety of peds and bikes there along 1300 South. Well, it was requested that we fund the project at the time for 325,000, and the Transcom recommended, and it was approved at 324,000. In addition, a couple of years ago, Salt Lake City came and they said for phase one, they would like to construct the Kensington East-West Byway, which was also bike ped improvements. This was in the area of West Temple to 6th East. This body reviewed and recommended, and at the time we had 300,000 to be able to put towards this project with the commitment from the city that they would have the additional funds from another source. Then the following year, they came and they requested phase two of this project, again through the Kensington East-West Byway, improving and enhancing the bike ped facilities throughout the communities. And this is on lower volume facilities or lower volume roads. The requested amount was 410,000, and Transcom reviewed and approved the 350,000 for this project. So these three projects were out and going. There were parts that were done on the 13th South, the very first project that we did that was outside of the federal project. They were able to accomplish some tasks with UTA and in-house that didn't require any federal action or oversight. So the request now then in counseling or working with the city, they would like to take all these projects and they would like to combine the three projects together, combine all their funding to make an improvement. So it would expand the geographical reach of the project. It would enhance the access for all the users, a lot more users, but especially for those bike and ped users. It would add key bicycle infrastructure along 13th South and Kensington and Andrew Avenue. It would include the critical intersection safety improvements on Main Street, State Street, and 300 East. It would implement traffic calming as well as signing, striping, and pavement markings. So if we add those three projects up, the total amount would be a little more than $1 million. And the request is that we combine those three projects, expand the scope to enable them to dovetail those improvements all together and get the most out of these funds available. That brings us to the third sheet. The first project here is on UDOT. This is the combination of 1800 North and the new construction of an interchange on I-15 at 1800 North in this location right there. The intent of this project is first on 1800 North is to take this facility. Maybe I want to zoom back just a second. Take this facility, which is a 2-lane section of road through this area with an at-grade train crossing or railroad tracks, and construct a 5-lane facility, including a bridge over the rail tracks. That would require additional frontage roads and improvements along the facility and the corridor. You can see also improvements up to the 1900 West intersection there. On the freeway side of things, what it would do is it would take the interchange, it would construct a new interchange, but it would push I-15 to the east on the property currently owned by the Hill Air Force Base. But UDOT and Hill Air Force Base are in discussions right now. Preliminary work's been done. The rail that was there has been removed. And with the intent of purchasing that, with this particular structure, you can see the intricacies. Actually, it's just a pretty picture of amazing spooey system there on the freeway in this particular area. That by itself looks amazing, doesn't it? But this particular project will also include trail systems through Clinton, through Sunset, and along Hillfield Road. Maybe you've heard of 3-Gate Trail. Improvements along those are also included in this project. But the intent is to tie these two projects together and bringing additional funds to the project. So we're bringing an additional $196 million, giving us a total estimated project cost of a little more than $384 million. The next project that we'll look at is on I-15 Shepherd Lane interchange and pedestrian overpass. We've looked at this project a couple of times. This will also construct a new interchange and address pedestrian overpass here at Clark Lane area. The intent here, as you can see, the new interchange is Shepherd Lane. This will tie in the interchange of I-15 as well as the West Davis Highway, a little further to the west. And then the pedestrian improvements there over I-15 on Clark Lane. What this project is needing to do is construct a wall through this area. This wall will enable expansions to double tracking in the future for the commuter rail, as well as expansions to I-15. And if they're able to tie this into this project, it'll save substantial amount of money, as well as impacting the motorist in the future. So it's for additional funding to increase the cost to accommodate the widening of I-15 and the front one by increasing the right-of-way. I left that part off. Anyway, it's an additional $3.6 million to do this now rather than address it later, which will cost more and impact a lot more. The next project is on SR 126 or 1900 West. This is a project up in Weber County. This will address on 1900 West or SR 126, the intersection here at 700 South. If we look at grade, you can see that anyone making a left turn lane totally blocks the road unless someone goes around them and passes in the right lane, and it causes some significant safety concerns and issues. The idea is to address this with putting left turn lanes from 126 on the 7th South, both north and southbound. So this would be an improvement for $600,000, giving us a total project cost of 2.6+ million. The next project is in Box Elder County. This is on US 89. It's a pavement reconstruction project. This goes from 126 up to Perry. This was to improve this facility by widening and reconstructing, as well as addressing drainage issues to keep the water off the pavement. The request is to add additional funds to this project of $4 million, giving us a total project cost of $58 million. That brings us to the last sheet. I can play these all in backwards if you want afterwards. I don't know, we can try it. The first project here is in Immigration Canyon. Mara, good to have you here. This is an exciting project in Immigration Canyon. These are for some safety improvements between 5655 East and 9698 East. That particular location is right here on the map. This is looking at the pictures going up the canyon, a beautiful area to live and recreate, but not a lot of safety issues there for anyone that's on a bicycle. You can see where a lot of the narrowness. The intent of this project is to strategically widen on both sides, so we have bike lanes on both sides of the facility up through the canyon between these parts. There was a study done on Immigration Canyon that prioritized locations as well as improvement types. The city's been working with slope mitigations as well as retaining rock or maintaining the clearing of the facilities from rock fall and other debris. But this particular project will address safety issues, which will help with some of that mitigation. Anything you would add here, Mayor? Oh, wonderful. So what this project is going to do is it's actually going to take funds that are being programmed from UDOT on the TTIF active. So that's $3+ million of that. The local match wanted to highlight that. That's a lot for Immigration City. But we have a total project estimated cost at $6.5+ million. And those other funds are coming from Wasatch Front in the SDP funds. The next project is on 123rd South or SR 71. This is to address the traffic coming on 123. If you were to exit off the westbound lanes and come up and go to that first intersection, that intersection is Lone Peak. There's some significant backage all the way up onto the freeway, sometimes on this ramp. So the idea or the intent of this is to first build an auxiliary lane that will come from, or a dedicated right lane that'll come from the ramp all the way to the intersection there at Lone Peak. The other one is to address the intersection there by creating dual lefts, both eastbound and westbound on this facility, and widen the intersection. This will be done in conjunction with improvements that Draper City is doing on Lone Peak Parkway with funds that were approved by Transcom. So the intent of this request is to tie these projects together, bringing an additional $3.6 million from Region 2. This is from their Transportation Solution Program funds, giving us a total project cost estimate of $6.3+ million. The remaining funds are programmed from WFRC. You approve those funds and they're in as part of the draft tip at this time. The next project is a project in Centerville. This is on Parish Lane or SR 105 at 400 West. This is a project that this body also reviewed and approved back. There's two intersections. There's 400 West, and then you go just a block west and there's Market Street. Both of those projects were approved. However, these intersections are being addressed with the improvements of I-15. But in conjunction and in planning and programming, it was identified that this project, with the funds that we have programmed, which are federal funds, could be advanced and move forward first and not federalize the I-15 project. So our funding all got moved to this intersection on the 400 West, making these proposed improvements, but they're, so that this project can advertise, they're still a little short. So the I-15 project, where UDOT is moving $1 million from the I-15 TIF funds into this intersection so that this intersection can construct and be completed before the I-15 project begins. So this has a total estimated cost of $4+ million. Then we have a project out in Tooele, and this is the last one on this board mod, just in case you want to talk or have us do it again. But this particular project here is to do two things. One, it's an eastbound auxiliary lane on I-80, and it's a northbound lane on SR 36. So the intent here on I-80 is to construct an auxiliary lane from where you come on 36 onto I-15 all the way up to where SR 201 is. In that little picture there, you can see where 36 comes on the I-80. You've got that shoulder as it merges in, and then it merges down to just two lanes. The intention is to maintain that all the way up to SR 201. The portion here on SR 36 is to address the northbound lane. Currently, it's a narrow two-lane facility. And so I guess I had to zoom in here, but I pulled it out there. But then, so the new project then will add an additional northbound lane on 36, which will go right on the I-80 with an auxiliary lane, and you can go clear to SR 201 without weaving onto the main line of I-80. They're adding a $10 million for a total project estimated cost of $37.9 million. Mr. Chair, that's all our board mod.
Thank you, Ben. That was a lot.
We can go back.
Any questions for Ben? We could go back 4 pages and.
More of a comment, and I think this comes with our partnership with UDOT as they are working on our strategic double checking, but a couple of those projects, you see the synergies with road projects that are needed and elimination of at-grade crossings, those kinds of things. And those opportunities, if we're working closely together, make obvious choice to do when you're doing this other work and ultimately improves the system. So, I just applaud their group, and I know they're working closely with our engineers and figuring out those opportunities. So it's a good thing.
Thank you, Carlton. Any other comments or questions for Ben?
I'm going to briefly take Carlton's point and generalize it to the collaboration that exists between UTA, UDOT, WFRC, the cities, the counties. And as Ben was going through this, if you were listening, some of the projects like, well, this was going to happen, but we worked with UDOT, we adjusted this, and then we worked with the city and they did this. And that happens day in, day out. That's the life that Ben lives. Working with the teams, working with FHWA, also Rex. And so a lot of that collaboration happens, and part of the approach there is to be as efficient as possible in the use of the funds, right? These are public dollars. We want to be prudent and efficient and have them go as far as they can. And there's also a lot of layers, candidly, of rules and regulations that we have to comply with. And we navigate them as successfully, I think, as anybody else, any other area in the country, to make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck from these public dollars in moving projects ahead. And it would not happen without the collaborative relationships among all of those parties. So Carlton, thank you for giving me the opportunity to make that point, and Ben and everybody that works on this. Ben, Rex, everybody that works on this, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, well, if there's no further questions for Ben on this, we need a motion to recommend that the Regional Council approve the resolution to modify the 2029 Transportation Improvement Program request.
Mr. Chair, so move.
I'll second.
Second.
Get the second there. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Ben, we'll turn it back to you for the 2025-2030.
Thank you. This is one hot item. Now, this is one of my favorite here when we get to talk about item 4B. So today we're going to take action on the 2030 Transportation Improvement Program and the corresponding air quality conformity finding. This, as Andrew mentioned earlier, this is a big team effort, and for staff from UDOT, staff from UTA, the local governments, we couldn't do any of this without all of you, and so appreciate all of that. So we have the new tip, and I think every year I'm going to change the logo, but then it just looks so cool. I was going to say awesome. Awesome is what I meant. Anyway, it's just really great. So what we have here on the Transportation Improvement Program is the document where it is a 6-year program of highway transit and active transportation projects. This is where it happens. It's 4 years of funded projects, 2 years of concept development that we use for programming. It's for our urban areas, the Salt Lake, West Valley. I got the name change there. I missed that. We're the Salt Lake urban area now and the Ogden-Layton urban area. It's funded with federal, state, and local programs, and it's for all of the cities, the counties, UDOT, and UTA. The TIP implements the long-range plan so that regional growth, all of the work that the Regional Transportation Plan does in preparation for the next 20, 30 years, the programming comes down to the tip. And that's where this body is so important to program these projects on the highway and transit and active transportation. It helps us meet all of our short-range needs, and it provides for the maintenance of our existing system. Now, the list of projects, they include all the new construction, rehab, maintenance, safety, ITS, transit, operating and maintenance, pedestrian and bike. And in counseling with Andrew earlier, I had a slide, multiple slides for all of these here, but we just looked at a whole bunch of projects through the board mod that addressed every one of those types of project improvements. And that's what the tip is. And so those are all hidden. So we'll jump right into what the tip does. So it represents millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. And in fact, we're 7 billion plus just along the Wasatch Front here in 6 years.
Just to be clear about, so Ben was saying, I was begging Ben, I said, Ben, show dozens more project slides. Everybody wants to see them. And Ben said, I don't think so, Andrew. I don't think, and we arm wrestled and I lost. And so if you want to see more project slides, he's got them, but to save you some time, he's not going to show all of them right now.
Yes, thank you. And our defibrillator, that box, it doesn't recharge that fast, so only one can go down at a time. I'd worry on the other guys. So, but it's thousands of jobs. The economic growth and development along the Wasatch Front, it's our mobility and access. It preserves life and it promotes the quality of life that we're accustomed to, and which you've worked very hard to maintain and to keep. So the TIP has to be financially constrained. Those first 4 years of the TIP, so 25, 26, 27, 28, those have to be financially constrained. In CD, we can be a little over-programmed. It has to conform to air quality. It's got to be reviewed by the public and then approved by the regional council. Your responsibilities then, as we review this information, is to make sure we're consistent and we're appropriate for this document to move to the council for approval. So what did we do? Well, we prepared and went out for public comment. But what we did first is we prepared an individual table. Let me go back right here. This one section has all of the tables that this body approves. It has our programs, the programs that Wasatch Front has a responsibility to coordinate the programming of, the STP, the CMAC, the CRP, and the TAP. And I know all three acronyms will go: Surface Transportation, Congestion Mitigation, Air Quality, Carbon Reduction Program, and Transportation Alternative Program. There's the 11 by 17 sheets of all those projects that we're currently programmed or the new projects that were recommended. We separated them out, but they're also included in the other tables that are involved with this one that identifies all of the other state-funded projects. We also have a section there that UTA has the responsibility to take the lead to coordinate the programming of. And in the air quality memorandum, Keith Billings in our office has analyzed and done all that was necessary to put that together, and we're conforming. So we prepared these documents to go out for public review and comment. You'll recall that back when we met on the 20th of June in our meeting, that you said we can go out for public review and comment, and that started on the 29th and it concluded on August 3rd. During that time, we had 2 public open houses, one in Salt Lake on the 9th and one in the Ogden area on the 16th. Then the intent here, then we went to our attack committees on the 7th and we reviewed the information, and they unanimously made recommendation to bring this information to Transcom, with the intent that Transcom today on the 15th will recommend that the council on the 22nd approve the 2025-2030 Transportation Improvement Program and the conformity memorandum. Then during this week, the last week of August, we prepare this information along with UDOT and the other MPOs. We combine it all together for the statewide Transportation Improvement Program, and that gets submitted to Federal Highways and Federal Transit for their review during the month of September. Then come October 1, hopefully we have the brand new and approved 2025-2030 Transportation Improvement Program. And actually, when we meet back in August, we're going to request that, or next week, we're going to request that we initiate the process all over again. So we're going to overlap just a little, as we do every year, is the next tip, the 26-2031. Not quite the ring 25-30 has to it, but we'll get used to it when we get there. But that'll begin. So when we were out for public review and comment, we encouraged people to go to our webpage. Go to the webpage, look at the interactive map. I hope many of you took that opportunity and used your family night or time together weekend to watch the tip and to comment on the project. But in the course of that, we had an opportunity to receive quite a few comments. In fact, to be exact, we had 250 project-specific comments received via the interactive map. So they would click on a link on a project, and then they would leave a comment specific on that particular project. Then there were 100 comments received via the general forum, which was an option there with the interactive map. There was 20-ish comments that were received at open houses that were actually either written down or verbally said, I want to make a comment. And then there were a few via other means, email or phone. So of the total, about 375 comments, a third of those comments were expressed support for a citizen proposed Rio Grande plan to take the railroad lines underground in downtown. Awesome, great platform for public and input. Wasn't a project on the tip, but nonetheless, we're soliciting for comments on our transportation system. It was awesome to get this kind of input and participation on from this group and several others. So in your meeting materials is a summary of those comments that were received. This is just a real brief comment summary. You can see to the left there is the comment and then the response. And then you also have in the meeting materials a list of all the comments. And it is our intention, and Wayne leads this up in our office, we will respond to every one of these projects. It's going to take us a couple of weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. We'll respond to all of the comments and make those all available for you as well as the public to review. But we also take this information and we use it with our partners. So the local governments, we meet with the local governments. UDOT, we meet with UDOT. UTA, we meet with UDOT. In fact, UTA and UDOT help us in the response to these. When we got a question on a project, they're helping us prepare the responses for the project. When does this happen? Why is not this going on? And where are we at? So we take this information in, and after we get all the responses put together, we keep this as a document that we utilize when we have in the regions. Region 1 has a meeting called roadway management. And in the region 2, they have a meeting called pavement management. That's the name, but they're actually coordinating project meetings where they talk about the projects and where we are getting better every year, discuss what some of the comments were, or we talk specific with the program managers and in the project, specific project managers, project managers, 2 projects. Anyway, we take that information, we take it to our meetings, and then we implement the appropriate comments in a project. And we do that. And you think, well, actually, 2 things. One, we actually do implement them in the project. So talking with the program managers, I jotted down just a couple. So here's one. Some of you might be familiar with. There's Foothill Boulevard pedestrian and landscaping improvements. Due to public comment and input, modified the landscaping areas, changed the crossing locations, crossing type to a unique angle crossing to shorten time to cross the road, and included other roadway improvements. That because of public comments. Another one, this is amazing one here.
Councilmember Dugan knows that the public cares a lot about Foothill Boulevard, as does he, right? Mhm.
One, and I'll just, maybe let me, 2 more here. In Salt Lake County, I-15 northbound on-ramp there at 5300 South, project will remove a yield condition and create an acceleration lane. That change is created by public comment, and the project has been awarded and constructed. In Davis County, our US 89 Farmington to I-84 project, pretty big project, right? $500+ million. During the public review and comment process, or the public comment period, so the overall project was to reconstruct US 89, widen the facility, limit access to grade separated interchanges, complete the frontage road system and trail system. The locals didn't want to see the highway. And they told UDOT, we don't want to see the highway. And so UDOT says, well, that's a lot of money if we got to worry about that. But they were early in the design process In fact, let me use the right word here so Ben can, it was a progressive design build on US 89. That enabled UDOT to analyze and to look at and to get the best product. So if you'll notice, when you drive 89, 89 goes down when you come to a local facility at an interchange. And so we've got that separated facility, but generally, cost savings wise, it costs less to take the local road over. But in this case, because they were early enough in the process, the public got involved and UDOT was able to design well. The road drops where the cross is over, and it actually saved quite a bit of money in several cases. Were you going to say something, Rex? Please.
Well, I was just going to mention, with that surplus of material, we were able to use a lot of that excess material down on the West Davis Highway, what's needed material to build up. So, it helped out both projects.
Awesome. Thank you, Rex. Didn't know that. Anyway, so it's important. Our public needs to know that we take their comments seriously. They know historically, they know rare conditions, or they know the areas. And so that comment is important. Now, unfortunately, during the public comment period, we learned something. We didn't know we were using an app on a map as we have our integrated map or our interactive map. It was all set up, and if you used it, which I hope y'all did on that family time together. Anyway, if you looked at that map and were able to make the comments, well, it was set up on Greenwich time, which is 24 hours ahead of our time. Anyway, what happened is it shut down, it turned off August 2nd at midnight. Ding, it turned off. And our advertising date, we said we would go through midnight on August 3rd. Well, we didn't find out until we were notified Monday morning that this had happened. We reactivated the map, we got it up and had it all ready and left it on for a couple of more days. But a couple items too you need to be aware of. By law, we're supposed to be out for public review and comment for 30 days. Before this snafu happened, we actually had 32 days of public review and comment period. So we met the legal, but the problem is we didn't meet what we'd advertised. And that's the part that we feel bad about. We're not trying to slide anything by. We want to comply with the law, but more important, we want to be accommodating to those whom we have responsibility to. So we opened it back up. It was made available for a couple of more days. In addition to that, we also, our general comment form was left open the whole time. It didn't close. And so there was avenues or ways that people could leave comments as well. In the future, we will double check that and be more cautious and careful. There was also questioning that our characters, the number of characters in the comment field was limited. We're still looking into that. But our email has an unlimited character limit. That might be cautious to say that real loud. But we will encourage, though, that we have emails or whatever other resource necessary to solicit for those public comments in the review. So that was some information we learned about from the process. But other than that, everything went well. We have a successful air conformity memorandum or concurring, and the tip tables were all ready. Mr. Chair, we're ready for your action.
Chair,
Yes, fine.
have you got this interactive map on every single project?
For the most part, yes. If it's mappable, we try to have it on there.
Okay, good family night activity.
Yes. Yes, it looks just like this. It's awesome. May even take a video of it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So
Try it
so
with my
Ben,
youngest.
and maybe I shouldn't ask this question. It seemed like last time in our discussion, there was a discussion about ozone conformity and time frame. And you noted that it was there. Is it still a potential problem down the road that is unresolved, or is there a pathway to that conformity question.
Others in the room can.
And I remember it
supplement.
had an October-ish timeframe, so.
Thank you. Appreciate your bringing that up. The State Division of Air Quality and UDOT and others have been working closely to see if there are other ways to address or work with the Environmental Protection Agency on some of the requirements. And presently, it's still a possibility, is if I understand correctly, that something that we could have some limitations imposed as early as October, but it's looking more like they've been able to, they're in the process of submitting a revised state implementation plan. And it looks like that will probably delay potential limitations for at least a year, so until fall of '25. Ben, Andrew, anything you want to add?
And Mayor Silvestrini serves
Thank
as a
you.
member of the Air
Yeah,
Quality
so,
Board also.
I can just add a few things, and this really quickly gets into the weeds. But our state did, first of all, we have, the science is showing that there's some unique things about the way ozone is formed in the Utah environment. And we've done a lot of work with respect to trying to control some of those precursors. VOC, volatile organic chemicals, is one of those, and nitrous oxide is another one. We've done a substantial amount of work on NOx reduction in connection with trying to get our PM 2.5 SIP, and get our state into more conformity status on that. We've done a pretty good job with that. We're asking actually for credit with respect to that, because the way ozone gets formed in Utah, NOx is a huge component of that. So we don't know if EPA will take a look at it this way, the way we're approaching it, but what we're trying to do is to essentially piggyback our ozone reduction on what we've already done with PM 2.5, because there's when you get right down to it, we're really up against a barrier where, in terms of reducing the man-made stuff, we've done a pretty good job at doing that. There's only a little bit left we can do with that. And a lot of the problem is caused by stuff that gets imported. And some people talk about China, but I'm talking about California and forest fires and things like that, and that we don't have control over and will never be able to fix, as well as just the organic stuff that gets produced by trees and things like that in our environment. So anyway, we're taking a shot at that.
Mayor, just to put a number to that, over 80% of the ozone precursors are so-called background ozone, meaning it's not man-made from Utah. So we have control. Our human-caused ozone precursors are less than 20% of what's contributing to ozone. And that condition is unique to the Intermountain West. We have the highest levels of background ozone of anywhere in the country. So it's a daunting challenge. I'm sorry, go on.
No, that's fine. I mean, like I said, this gets in the weeds real quickly, but anyway, what we're arguing to EPA is, I mean, we're not trying to slouch on our responsibilities and to do what we possibly can do to improve our air quality. However, these unique challenges make it a lot more difficult for us than it might be in some other locality. So we're hoping they'll give us a break on that.
Well said. Thank you.
Now, I'll just add on one other brief piece to this. This issue, this ozone conformity issue, has the potential to be a significant problem for us in Utah. In that, and Carlton, you brought this up, thank you for doing so. If a freeze is imposed, then that means that we're essentially not able to amend the TIP or the regional transportation plan. It's frozen as currently adopted. And basically you can't amend it because you can't get a new air quality conformity ruling. So we're essentially stuck, frozen with the plans that we have in place, which is part of why it's so important that we do things like we're doing today, update and amend the TIP, update and amend the regional transportation plan, which we did this morning at the Regional Growth Committee meeting, to have them be as current as possible in the possibility that a freeze occurs. And after a freeze, it gets worse, potentially. If a lapse occurs, sanctions can be imposed, and there can actually be restrictions on what projects can move forward. Roadway and transit projects, you know this, can be restricted from moving forward if there's a lapse. So we're taking this issue very, very seriously. And when I say we, I mean WFRC with our role of evaluating air quality conformity for the transportation sector, UDOT, the Air Quality Board, DEQ and DAQ. And last thing I'll say about this is Mayor Silvestrini and Wayne are appropriately referencing our work with the EPA, regulatory processes. We are doing that. We are doing everything we can in that arena, but we're not relying only on that. We are also contemplating the possibility that if we submit requests to EPA that are rejected, and if we collectively think those rejections are unreasonable, then there's a possibility to pursue litigation. And after the overturning of Chevron deference by the Supreme Court, that means there's a better likelihood that a litigation on that basis would be considered by a court. We're also talking with our congressional delegation about the possibilities for some modifications to the Clean Air Act. That's an uphill climb, but we're looking at that as well. So my point in saying this is that we are taking a multifaceted strategy to address this issue. But back to Wayne's original point, we think that the likelihood of a freeze being imposed as early as October at this point is quite slim. We think that is not likely to happen. That timeline is likely to be pushed off, and it won't happen on a dime. If it is going to happen, we will know that with, I think it's at least 60 days, or there's a lot of details, as Mayor Silvestrini said, and we've been working on this a lot. We'll know that with at least 60 days, so we would have some time if a freeze was coming to potentially do things like get this body back together and take additional actions if necessary, and we'll keep you posted on that. Yeah, where were we?
I don't know, but this has been a fun fire hose to drink out of. I'll tell you.
Yeah, thanks, Carlton, for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And Ben, thanks for all of that. Any other questions for Ben? I just wanted to, I leaned over to Andrew and thought 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I guess it would have been somewhere in there, that you presented the 2020, 2025, and it was a big deal. And this is a, once in a lifetime, it's only going to be this is 2025, 2030.
And like you noted, Ben was really excited about how cool 2025 sounded, right?
Was
5 years ago.
And here we are at 2025, 2030. And I just thought, wow, it wasn't quite as exciting, but still really exciting. But where the heck did the last 5 years go? Because that seemed like it was yesterday.
You spent time growing your gray beard.
That's right, it was great. I grew it and it turned gray all that time. That was just crazy. It's been a little while. Well, all right. If there are no further questions or comments, we need a motion to recommend to the Regional Council that they approve the resolution adopting 2025-2030 Transportation Improvement Program and the corresponding air quality conformity finding.
So moved.
We have a motion from Mayor Silvestrini and a second from, was that Dan? Any further comment? Hey, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is unanimous, and
Thank
that'll
you,
bring us
everyone.
to, thank you, Ben. That'll bring us to item 5, which is one of WFRC's primary activities is programming funds for transportation projects and technical assistance and putting resources in the hands of local communities. And so Wayne and Marsha White are going to give us a short overview of these programs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As mentioned, we get to administer and assist with several funding programs, and we're certainly glad to be able to do what we can to help your communities make significant transportation improvements. The application cycle for several of these funding programs is coming up, and so we'd like to take the opportunity to just briefly review with you what the programs are. There are 3 types of programs. There's transportation capital improvement programs. There are planning assistance programs, and then there are other federal grants. And I'll talk a bit about the capital improvement programs and then turn it over to Marcia to talk about the other programs. And so you can see the 4 programs. Ben has already mentioned these by name. The STP is eligible for roadway improvements as well as transit and active transportation improvements. The congestion mitigation and air quality carbon reduction programs focus on projects ranging from transit improvements to active transportation, to intersection improvements, to intelligent transportation systems that can demonstrate a reduction in emissions. And then the Transportation Alternatives Program is primarily focused on the construction of pedestrian and bicycle facilities. And Ben Withrich is the program lead for all of these 4 programs. And so if you've got questions about any of them, feel free to reach out to him. I will just note that in Morgan and Tooele counties, we've got the opportunity, or these local governments in these counties have the opportunity to talk with UDOT or to approach UDOT for funding. UDOT administers some STP programs and TAP funding that is more for the areas outside of Salt Lake, Davis, Weber, and Utah counties. So with that, I will turn it over to Marcia.
So sticking with the Olympics theme, I'm like not even on the podium. I'm like, maybe I'll get on as a bronze medal here, but oh geez, between those two. Am I going the right way? No.
You got my vote, Marcia. Just go for gold.
I'm going for gold. Yes, I would go for gold. Well, maybe you can switch it over. Can you do that for me? Thank you. So my name is Marcia White. I actually am lucky enough to work here in the Community and Economic Development group. We have 2 programs that if you are not aware of them, you should be. Has anybody ever used the Transportation and Land Connections program at all? Awesome. I can see some hands raising there. So if you're sitting there going, gosh, I have a corner somewhere in my city or county that I really want to try to figure out how to connect maybe the roads and some active transportation and maybe some retail, then give us a call and we look at those programs and help you out on trying to push those forward. We also, and any of you that have front runner stations, tracks, or BRTs are sitting there saying, I wonder how HB 462 affects me. We also do technical assistance around those station area plans. And so if you haven't reached out to us yet, we have some money to help you do those as well. And then we have a couple of others. The Community Development and Block Grant Program is here to help you with some infrastructure projects. Weber, Morgan, and Tooele counties, not Ogden, is considered in there. Mostly what they go to fund is helping infrastructure projects. So $1 million isn't a ton to help infrastructure projects. There is a mandatory how to apply workshop. And if you haven't been to one of those, they are riveting. And so I think if you want to sign up for those and see if you can get some CDBG money, that would be great. There's another infrastructure program that we also administer. It's called the Community Impact Board, and it also is a more of a grant loan kind of project. It is also for infrastructure as well. And then the one near and dear to my heart, if you want to try to figure out how to add some jobs, infrastructure around trying to figure out if you need a building built and it's going to add some jobs in your area, then it's not always just the jobs, but that's how the Economic Development Administration looks at it. So give us a shout on that. These are ongoing applications, application cycles. The other two, and I think, am I the one that's going to go ahead and you go to the next one? You'll see we have some deadlines. The STIP, the CMAC, the CRP, the TAP, and the TLC all have application notices, letters of intents due in September. And then the others are just ongoing and rotating. So other than the riveting workshop that you have to do for CDBG. Don't, if you don't know what one you should be applying for, it doesn't matter. Call us, call any one of us, any one of them. I'm not even going to say I'm on the podium, but call those guys and say, hey, will this fit my project? And we will help you get it into the right bucket. So that packet will be going out. I think we have a council or a Wasatch Front Regional Council meeting coming up here, and those packets will be going out shortly after that. So any questions for the gold winners?
Let me just
over here?
echo Marcia's point. We try to make this as easy as possible. And the letter of intent that Marcia was mentioning, it's a very simple form that you fill out. And if you're not sure which program or would my project even qualify, that's okay. Just submit a letter of intent. And that gives us the ability to then work with you and talk with you and, advise you. Maybe there's a different program, maybe there's even a different agency that could be supportive. And then if we get you settled that there's a good program that will be a good fit for your project, then you can submit a full application. But we try to set a very low and easy bar because our goal is to help. We can't fund everything, but we want to help as much as we can with all of your communities.
Thank you, Marcia. That presentation was riveting. All right. When the tip is submitted to the Federal Highway Association, the FTA, WFRC is required to comply or to certify along with UDOT that the regional planning process complies with federal regulations. So Wayne is coming back to the podium to briefly review all of the elements of this certification.
Thank you. In your meeting materials, you'll see this document called the self-certification of the regional transportation planning process. And the first couple of pages talk about committee organization and structure and coordination. The next several pages cover technical elements of the process, from air quality to modeling to public involvement, along with a host of other activities that we get to be involved with. And then there's also a piece on the primary products, namely the regional transportation plan and the transportation improvement program. And then the last page or two talks about compliance with Title VI and a few other federal regulations. And so we're grateful that we can work with UTA and UDOT and certify that the regional planning process does comply with federal regulations. We're also grateful with your support to be able to go beyond the minimum requirements and do a lot to make the work of the regional council much more effective than it would be just by itself, but by enhancing and looking at economic and land use integration and being able to incorporate many of those elements, we're able to make for a really effective planning process. So any questions or comments about the planning process? Seeing none?
Okay.
we'll, go
Thank
with
you,
that.
Wayne. Well, then, seeing no comments, we need a motion to recommend that the Regional Council approve the resolution certifying the transportation planning process. We have a motion and a whole bunch of seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That brings us to item number 7, which is other business. Is there any other business that we have to bring up today? Okay, well, the next Transcom meeting will be held on Thursday, November 21st. That is a change. It was on a different date previously. We had the opportunity to move it back to its normal day. And so just so you can note on your calendars, it'll be on the 21st of November. What's that? And it will be more than riveting. Just, what's that? No, we originally had to move it for a different purpose. We had it on there that they moved their meeting, so we can bring it back to ours.
He just likes saying the word
Snafu.
snafu, I think. Is,
It's a snafu. It was a riveting snafu though, so we're good.
Aren't most?
Aren't most, yes. All right, well, that's that brings us to the end. We have a motion to adjourn. We're done. Thank you, everybody.